Welcome. I am N.S.Lavanya, Assistant Professor, Department of English, KCS Kasinadar College of Arts and Science. In this video, I am going to summarize the poem Ring in the Book written by Robert Browning. Let's see the plot outline. The book tells the story of a murder trial in Rome in 1698, whereby an impoverished nobleman, Count Guido Franceschini, is found guilty of the murders of his young wife Pompilia and her parents, having suspected his wife was having an affair with the young cleric Giuseppe. Having been found guilty despite his protest and sentenced to death, Guido then appeals unsuccessfully to Pope Innocent IX to overturn the conviction. The poem comprises 12 books, 10 of which are dramatic monologues spoken by different characters involved in the case. Count Guido speaks twice, usually giving a different account of the same events, and 2 books, first and the last, spoken by the author. The poem is based on a real-life story. Under Roman law, trials were not held in open court but rather by correspondence, whereupon each witness was required to submit a written statement for future use. Browning came across a large volume of these written statements relating to the 1698 Franceschini case and bought it on the spot. This volume, later known as the Yellow Book, after the color of its aged covers, struck Browning as an excellent basis for a poem. But he was unable to get any further than the basic idea and often offered it as a subject to other writers, notably Alfred Tennyson, upon which to base a poem or a novel. Luckily for posterity, there were no takers, and following his wife's death and his return to England, Browning revived his old plan for a long poem based on the Roman murder case almost 8 years after the idea had first struck him. The first book features a narrator, possibly Browning himself, who relates the story of how he came across the Yellow Book in the market, and then giving a broad outline of the plot. The next 2 books give the views and gossip of the Roman public, apparently divided over which side to support in the famous case, who give differing accounts of the circumstances surrounding the case and the events which take place. Book 4 is spoken by a lawyer, Tertium Quid, who has no connection to the case but gives what he claims is a balanced, unbiased view of proceedings. Book 5 sees the start of the testimony from the trial, allowing the accused murderer Franceschini to give his side of the story. Book 6 is the young priest who was accused of being Pompilia's lover and who asserts no adultery took place, that he simply tried to help Pompilia escape her abusive husband. Book 7 is the account of the dying Pompilia, mortally wounded but not killed in the attack. Books 8 and 9 consist of depositions by the 2 opposing trial lawyers and are filled with legal bickering and discussion of minute pieces of evidence that may or may not be related to the case as a whole. These could be interpreted as representing Browning's somewhat humorous attacks on the convoluted English and European legal system, and might therefore suggest a critique of modes of discourse that replace major elements with minor ones. Book 10 is perhaps the best known of the monologues in the poem, as Pope Innocent considers Franceschini's appeal against a wider backdrop of moral and theological questions, including a highly well-wrought reflections on the nature of good and evil. However, the Pope ultimately rejects the Franciscanist plea. Book 11 is similarly well regarded and features Franciscani in his cell the night before his execution, wherein he begs for his life and seems at times to lose his mind. Book 12 returns to the initial narrator's voice, which chronicles the conclusion and implications of the trial as well as the poem. The depth of its philosophical, psychological and spiritual insight is a step up from anything Browning produced before or after, and the poem was almost universally hailed as a work of genius. Thus, the end of the poem. Thanks for watching this video. We meet again the next time.